You know that feeling when you're staring at a contract, just pages and pages of tiny text, and your eyes just glaze over? Well, today we're going to cut through all that legal jargon. We're going to talk about one of the most powerful words you'll find in any agreement, a condition. So let's get right to it.
All right, first things first, let me ask you something. When you look at a contract, you see this huge list of clauses and terms, right? But do you think every single one of them is equally important? Like, is clause number 3 just as crucial as clause number 27?
The answer? It's a big, fat no. Not even close. See, in the world of contracts, there's a hierarchy. Some terms are absolutely essential, and others, well, they're not. It's a huge myth that every single line has the same legal weight. That's just not how it works.
Okay, to make this crystal clear, let's use an analogy. I want you to think of a contract like a house. Some of the terms, they're the foundation, the solid concrete that the whole thing rests on. But other terms, they're more like the paint color you choose for the walls. I mean, sure, it's part of the house, but if it's the wrong shade, the building isn't going to fall down, right? So those really important terms, the ones that are literally holding the whole deal together, they actually have a special legal name. We call them conditions. So let's really dig into what that means.
Okay, so here's the textbook definition, but I'll make it simple. A condition is a major term. It's so central, so absolutely vital, that if it's not followed, the entire purpose of the contract just evaporates. We're not talking about a minor detail here. We're talking about the very heart of the agreement.
Look, if you only remember one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this phrase, fundamental to the contract. That's the key. It's the ultimate test you can apply. Just ask yourself, if we took this one term out, would the whole deal be pointless? If the answer is yes, bingo, you found a condition.
All right, so to really get a grip on what a condition is, it really helps to look at what it isn't. And remember our paint on the walls from the house analogy? Well, in contracts laws, those less critical terms have a name too. They're called warranties.
So let's just lay this out, side by side, nice and clear. A condition is fundamental. That's the foundation of the house. A warranty? That's non-essential. It's the paint color. See the difference? They're both part of the contract, for sure, but their level of importance is just worlds apart.
Okay, so why does any of this actually matter? I mean, who cares what we call it, right? Well, you should care, because what happens when someone breaks one of these terms? The consequences are wildly different. This is where it gets really, really important. Let's start with the big one. What happens if someone breaks a condition? What if a giant crack suddenly appears in the foundation of our contract house? What happens then? When a condition is broken, the fallout is massive. The person who didn't break the rule has the right to just end the entire contract. They can walk away completely. And on top of that, they can also sue for any money they lost because of the breach. It's basically the nuclear option in contract law. Okay, but what about the less severe stuff? What happens if the contractor just used the wrong shade of beige? Let's look at what happens when one of those lesser terms, a warranty, gets broken.
Well, the outcome here is way more limited. Because the main point of the contract is still intact, I mean, the house is still standing, right? You can't just tear up the whole agreement. Your only option is to claim damages. Basically, you can sue to get the money it'll cost to fix the mistake. Like the cost of buying a new can of paint and redoing that wall.
All right, before we finish up, let's just quickly bust a few common myths. Because sometimes knowing what something isn't is just as helpful as knowing what it is. So let's be super clear. A condition is not a term that only kicks in under specific circumstances. That's a whole other thing in law. And it's definitely not some informal handshake agreement you made outside the contract. Nope. A real condition is a major, formal term that's written right there in black and white. So, what's the big takeaway here? It's this. A condition is the absolute core of the deal. It's the heart, the foundation. It's the promise that is so important that if it gets broken, the whole agreement just becomes meaningless. And that brings us to one last thought for you to take away. The next time you're about to sign something, a new job offer, a phone plan, whatever it is, I want you to ask yourself, can I spot the foundation here? What are the absolute core promises that, if they were broken, would make me want to walk away from this whole thing? Because, trust me, knowing the answer to that can make all the difference in the world.